I mean, horrible,
Yes.
absolutely horrible.
Yes.
How can you love that guy? How can you turn your heart and say, you know what, I love him?
It takes prayer, darling. That's why it's important. When you made a comment earlier about it's not necessarily important for somebody to actually read the Bible as long as they feel like they have a relationship with with God. But how can you really truly have a relationship with God if you don't know his word? The Bible said to put on the whole armor of God. What is the armor? The armor is the word. And so if I didn't have the word to teach me and to guide me and to tell me, hey, I got to forgive them. I got to forgive those that trespass against me. I got to forgive those. I got to trust that God is going to go before me and fight my enemies for me. I got to love those that spitefully use me. So if you don't know the word, how can you counteract the war, the spiritual warfare in life if you have no armor? The armor is the word.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time! Presenting the champion of the world, Phil WamBams Benamino!
Yo, it's your boy, it's Phil WamBams Benamino, the show about ordinary people who've done extraordinary things. And this Wednesday is no different. But before, as always, listen, man, subscribe to our channel. Go down there, click the little link. Make sure you click the little alert button. Get all the alerts. Get all of our new stuff. It's important. The show is absolutely free. It doesn't cost you anything. All we ask is a little bit of time, and you're going to gain so much knowledge. We want to keep pumping out the good content for you. Follow all of our social media. You know, we're on TikToks. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're out there. We give you shorts throughout the week, give you all the information in case you missed it, and, of course, the podcast on YouTube. So just make sure you subscribe. We just ask you that. And don't forget also our apparel. We got all kinds of apparel too. Go to our website and check it out. You're going to enjoy it. So by popular demand, we listened to our viewers, and our viewers said, hey, Wham Bam, we want some women on the show, man. Do you get any women entrepreneurs? We want to hear a little bit about, you know, some of them and what's going on in their lives. And today we have brought you just that. We have a female entrepreneur. Not only is she an entrepreneur, but she literally wrote her own book. And her name is Wynika Hendrix'Palmer is in house. And this is her book right here. From this to that. It's from this to that. Wynika, how are you today?
I am blessed to be here.
No, we're blessed to have you. We are so blessed to have you and so excited.
What an honor to be here.
So, you know, I gotta, you know, tell real quick the viewers where you're from. You know, you're an Alabama girl. You're not a Georgia girl. You're an Alabama girl, right?
Alabama girl.
Alabama girl. Now, is that Roll Tide or is it War Eagles?
War Eagles.
War Eagles. There you have it. Uh-oh. But you got a little bit of love for the Roll Tides, no? Just a little?
As long as they're not playing Auburn, we're good.
There you go. There you go. So born and raised in Alabama, huh?
Sir, yes, sir.
So your whole life.
All my life I had to fight. I've been there all my life.
That's awesome.
We're not going to talk about how long that is.
You look, what, 23, 24?
Yeah, I'll take that.
There you go. There you go. Well, you got $1 million smile, that's for sure.
Thank you.
We're happy to see that.
Thank you.
So, you know, let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneurship. Now, first, you know, I want to talk about this book because I actually read this book.
Oh, goodness.
And I got to tell you, man, it was well thought out, very, very inspirational. But there's a lot of things there's some questions.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, you know, your service, you know, to God, and you know, are you in the ministry right now?
Yes, sir, I am. Yes, sir.
Really?
I'm
So tell us a little bit about that.
trained.
How'd you get into that, and when did you decide ministry was the route I was going?
Well, I didn't choose ministry. Ministry chose me.
Yeah.
Let me just say that.
You know what? It's so funny. I hear this every episode, and I tell viewers all the time, you don't find life. Life finds you.
Yes, sir.
Like,
Yes, sir.
people always say, you know, what is it you want to do? What is you want? You figure it out throughout experiences,
sir.
and life finds
Yes,
out
sir.
which direction you're going to take.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's funny you say that.
When I was in, I would say when I was in middle school, high school, I would go to church and I would hear the pastor preaching, and I would get home and I have my notebook, and I would go home and I would go over the whole sermon in the mirror.
Yeah.
But when I went to college, you know, it wasn't something that I didn't really have. God bless my parents; they're good, but I didn't have people to pour into me and say, "Hey, you know, maybe this is the route that you need to take." And so it wasn't until later on, you know, that God really said, hey, it's a reason why, for example, I worked at a fitness center, and people would come in my office for prayer and for miss, but I didn't realize what all God was putting down on the inside of me. And so,
Wow.
yeah. So
What were they praying for? They just that the
Oh, my
trainer didn't
goodness.
kick their butt?
Listen, you'd be surprised. People going through marital issues. People dealing with things at their school. You know, I had a lot of college students that used to come to the office, or just young ladies just going through life. Like you say, life happens,
yes.
and it happens to us all. And one of the things, the misconceptions that we see is that we see people smiling. We see them going through life, and we don't know what is going on behind closed doors.
100%. You know what? I always tell people, even on social media, you're seeing the highlight reel,
That's
right?
That's
You don't really know what's going on and all the battles that it took
Wow.
for them to get to that certain point.
Sure.
And that's deep. That's some real life stuff. And nobody's going to put out there what they don't want you to know or what they don't want to see.
Right.
So it is important that you're able to provide people an outlet.
One of the things that I like and that I heard this before is that everybody isn't who they supposed to be. I might post today an awesome motivational thing, but behind the scenes, I may be going through HE double hockey sticks down on the inside of me. Everything and everybody's not who they supposed to be. Because if I post nobody should be posting, be too transparent on social media, because you want to leave something for people. You know, you don't want to just be an open book, so to speak.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I've learned that everybody isn't who they supposed to be. And a lot of times people are in competition with what they see on social media, trying to keep up with other people in their lives, but we don't know what the cost that they had to pay to live that life that they have.
You know, it's so true. And that's kind of what inspired even the show, just having ordinary people doing extraordinary things, because, you know, you're right. There's so much fake
Wow.
on the internet. Let's just be real. And I can go right to filters to try to make people look a certain way, feel a certain way, you know, and you know, they're taking the selfies and they're throwing the filters. Why do you need a filter?
Why do you need a filter?
You know what I'm saying? You're like,
But we're
you
not gonna talk
are
about
you.
makeup, but we're going to talk about the filter.
Yeah,
Because I need
yeah.
makeup. I need my makeup.
Makeup's part of being a female. You wear makeup for many reasons, right? You know, because it makes you feel good. But guess what? I'm sure that you're going to wear makeup every single day.
Right.
Now, the girl that puts on makeup sometimes and decides other times not to put it on,
Right.
I got some questions on that.
Gotcha.
You know, I'm kind of curious, like what makes you determine what day you want to be.
But it depends on what's going on.
you know-
That depends now. If I'm just going to the gym, I'm not finna be all dolled up.
No.
I'm
Well,
just
see,
going-
some people get dialed up to go to the gym
yeah,
because they want to look good. You
I
know,
get
they
it,
don't
I
know if
get
that
it,
good-looking
I get it.
dude's gonna be.
But I'm not trying to clog up my pores while I'm trying to go work out.
I hear you. I hear you. It's a different strokes for different folks, as they say, right?
Yes, sir.
So, you know, being in ministry, obviously, you know, it's been a long time coming. I know you were in and out of the church. Tell us a little bit some of your services, some of the work that you've done for the church, and and let me ask you another thing too. What type of service? Like, for your viewers that are out there, I'm just letting you know. Yeah, we're going to go there today. We're going to talk about God. We're going to talk about Jesus. We're going to talk about, you know, everything that should be inside of you. Okay, so if you don't like God, don't shut this off. You need to watch this stuff. And if you love God, go ahead and turn the volume up, because you're going to enjoy some of this stuff that we're going to talk about today.
One of the things you just said is what I do for the church. And I am, God is still working me. First of all, I'm going to say I'm a minister in training. That's very important that I say that. But at the end of the day, I do believe that we are all called to minister. We are all called to go out and tell the gospel about God. But the Bible said that that we have given gifts of the fivefold ministry. You have evangelists, you have prophets, you have your apostles, you have your teachers, and you have your ministers. And so I do believe that certain people, like the Bible says, many are called, but only a few are chosen. But when you said what I do for the church, I look at things a little different. I'm not a church. I'm not here to boost anybody's church. I'm here to grow the kingdom.
There you go.
I'm all about Jesus came down, and he came down and he spoke about kingdom principles. And I am for uplifting people. I want the gift that God has given me to edify his people, edify his kingdom, to grow his people. So I do things not for his church. I do it for the kingdom.
Amen to that.
Yes,
I love
yes,
that.
sir.
I love that a lot. Is that what inspired you to write your book? And let me tell you what, I want to admit, and I want to tell the viewers, the book is very, very well written. It's very, listen, it's got great size for people like me that has a hard time, seeing, so it's not too small. I ain't got to put readers on. I can actually read it. It's not too thick. So, you can get through chapters and actually feel like you accomplish a chapter and stuff. And you get a lot of information out of it. So, one of my favorite quotes that you actually quoted in the book was, pain can produce purpose. And I always say the problem in the world today is people need purpose.
Yes, sir.
And some people don't have it, or they're trying to find it.
That's it. 'Cause we all have it.
Yeah, but they don't understand it, right?
Yes,
so they're trying to find out, what is my purpose? And sometimes it's a lonely world without a purpose, man.
So let me just tell you, for the reader, I want to look to the reader right now.
Yeah.
For the person that's watching, who's under the sound of my voice, who do not understand what your purpose in life is, I'm going to answer that for you today. Your purpose, my purpose, Mr. Phil's purpose, everybody in this room's purpose is to live a life that glorifies God.
Amen.
That's my purpose. My purpose is to live a life that glorifies God. How do I glorify God? By being obedient to what he says.
That's my next question. But being obedient to what he says, but a lot of people don't know, everything's hearsay.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Okay.
It's all based on what's heard. It's based on the past. It's based on the Bible if you read it. A lot of people don't read the Bible, don't understand the Bible, but you don't have to in order to believe in God and follow God and be a good person of God. Don't you agree?
To an extent.
Okay.
But to put it this way, you have to know, it's important to know the word. I don't want to say you have to, because there may be somebody saying that they have a relationship with God, but they don't really read. And I can admit that I was one of those ones. When God gave me the vision to write a book, it was first what I thought was just an idea. It was just something that crossed my mind maybe about 3 years ago. God gave me the vision, gave me the idea to write this book maybe about 3 years ago, and then about 2 years ago. But I just thought it was this idea because I'm thinking I don't have much to say. I didn't know what to say. I didn't have a particular topic. And then about 2 years ago, I had a prophet that spoke to me and said, "Woman of God, you're gonna write a book." And I said, "Okay, all right." But like some of us, like we're hard-headed children, we have to have our parents got to tell us something over and over again. And again, I let my own insecurities and my doubts think that I wasn't good enough. Or who am I to write a book? I don't even have a church. I'm not even a licensed minister. But God, you want me to write a book and talk about God? I don't even know the Bible like that, if we can tell the truth. But God said it's not about, one of the most misconceptions that we have is we think that we have to be equipped for God to use us. He says, I'm not worried about being the equipped. I'm going to equip the ones I call. And so my main vision, my main purpose is so I was at a meeting in September. I was emceeing a church event, a church anniversary, and another prophet that's pretty well known and spoke to me. And I knew it was nobody but God, because the day before I wrote down and I sat down and I wrote down in my little notebook, I said, "Write the book, Wynika." Yeah. So the next day, my mother was still in the hospital, and I go to the location. I go there, and the minister, the prophet, the man of God says, "Woman of God, you're going to write a book." And I said it was confirmation. And so it was just, and then when I just sat down, God just gave it to me. He just gave me each chapter.
How long did it take you to write a book? I mean, because, it's so many people, and I'll be honest with you, even myself, like my father's told me for many years, you need to write a book, But I really don't have time to sit down and physically write it. But how long did it take you? Like, tell us about the process.
If I was to put all the time together, I would probably say it took me about a week to write it.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because many may not know, but I also am a caregiver for my mom. And me and my brother, we take turns with her. And so when I have my mom, it's kind of like she has my attention.
That's great, right.
When I have her. And so at this particular time, I wrote the book in about a week is when it took me to write it.
Hey, folks, this is WamBam at WamBams Podcast. I want to take a moment to thank our major sponsor, Cost Plus Processing, the leader in merchant processing. If you're a business owner and you're accepting credit cards or need to accept credit cards, reach out to Cost Plus Processing at 1-855-391-9190. That's 1-855-391-9190. And find out why they are the future in merchant processing. Now back to the show. About a week, so that's great. So you know what? I'm going to break it down a little bit.
Okay,
Let's go through
go.
this book
Let's
a little
go.
bit.
Let's go.
Chapter 1. We talking in part in chapter 1. You talk about extending grace to those who left you for dead.
Oh, Jesus. Yes.
I need some information on that. I need to understand your clarity of what brought that to your mind, and you started out with this, boom, right with a bang. You know,
So the chapter he's talking about is called From the Pits to the Palace. And this chapter is written, let me just say this one thing before we go. This book was written to motivate, to encourage, and to inspire the reader. Because somebody has ever felt, this is for the person who's ever felt rejected, who's ever felt lonely, whoever felt overlooked, whoever felt like life was a mess, whoever felt like they was a victim. This is what that book is for. To encourage them and let them know that just because you may be in a dark place right now doesn't mean you have to stay there.
that's right.
And that's why it said from this to that, because God, I believe that God not only has the ability, he also has the desire to take you from your this, and my this may not be the same.
Right.
So whatever.
Or it
your
might not
this-
be his this.
Yes, right.
Right.
But he has the ability and the power and the desire to take us from this to that. So the question as far as from the pits to the palace, if you know the story about the man Joseph, the man of God Joseph, this is a very it's very true to me. It's very very sincere. That's why I made this chapter the first book. The first chapter in the book. This young man was loved by his father, but hated by his brothers. And because his brothers despised the love that his dad had for him,
Jealousy.
they were jealous. Have you ever had anybody in your life
Oh,
that
sure.
was
I'm
jealous
sure
of you?
there's plenty of viewers. I'm
Right.
sure.
But here's
Of course, me, but I'm just saying, viewers itself. I think everybody has experienced somebody in time
Yes, sir.
who were jealous of whether their success or anything that was happening, or the way somebody thought about them.
Wow. What about this? What about the people in your life that are close to you, that you love dearly, and they jealous of you? They're jealous of you, and you ride or die for them, and you're their backbone. You're the one that they count on you when they need some, but when it's your turn, they count you out.
Right.
And
Exactly.
So Joseph was the person in the Bible that his family conspired against him to put him in a pit. And so if you read because I don't want to go through the whole book, because I want them to go and buy the book.
course,
But the
yeah.
moral to the story is, in the end, Joseph was eventually, he was thrown into a prison. He was in the pit first. Then he went to the prison. He was in the pit and the prison. But watch this. This is for the reader who's been neglected, who's been rejected by people you love, and you didn't do anything to them. You didn't even give them a reason. He was even put into he was in the pit first, but even when he went to the prison, he didn't do anything. The Potiphar wife conspired and lied on him, and because Potiphar got angry, he threw him in the pit. So there are times you're going to be in some dark places and you ain't done anything to anybody.
You sit there
just
and
gotta
question,
trust-
but isn't that the time where people question it the most, sitting there going, God, why me?
Of course.
Like, why am I in this situation?
course.
I'm sitting here, I'm miserable, I'm going through some trauma and stuff, you know, and I didn't even do anything.
But watch this, what God say, why not you?
Yeah.
Why not you? Why not you, Wynika? Why not you? Because for one, people, if you live your life the way according that I tell you, if you have trust in me, your life should be a testimony for how I brought you through. So the good thing about it, I can imagine that at some point Joseph said, God, why me? He's in the pit. Why me? He didn't get out of the pit. He's in Potiphar's house. Potiphar had a nice house. And then he's lied on, and now he's in the prison and ain't done nothing to nobody. You can't tell me that he didn't say one time or think one time. But the Bible never said that one time that Joseph questioned and asked, why me, God? But I believe, because if it was me, I'm sure he probably thought it. But it was his trust. He still trusted in God. Even when the woman threw herself at Joseph, he said, woman, I'm not going to sin. Who are you for me to sin us against God? He still had that much trust and faith in God. And so that's what I want people to know, that no matter your situation, no matter the dark place, you may be in the prison right now. You may even be in the pits of your mind. It's one thing to be in the prison, but it's another place to be in a physical prison. But what about the prison up here?
Yeah.
And so,
You know, this resonated with me, my own life as well,
Wow.
when I was younger, because having a child at a young age and fighting for custody of her and going through hell trying to gain custody, be a guy from up north, come down south and fight for this child that you're not married to,
Right.
was an act of God in itself, right? And visiting every single jail probably in this state and going through every weekend. That was during the O.J. Simpson time too, when the girl just told the man, went to the police and said, hey, he did X, Y, or Z. It was automatic. You were getting locked up for 2-3 nights before they figured it out because they didn't want blood on their hands and stuff.
That's right.
So I went through that drama and I went through, why me, why me, why me? And, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand then because I was real young. But I look back now, and I remember my father used to always tell me, because I'm like, Dad, I pray to God, why? And he said, you know what? You ever hear a song by Garth Brooks? Thank God for unanswered prayers. And he goes, you need to listen to that. And when I listened to that, it changed the whole perspective of everything. That, okay, maybe I wasn't seeing what God was seeing. I was seeing what I wanted and what I thought was right and wrong. But in the end, looking back even to this day, going through that whole process made me the man I am today.
Wow.
And I wouldn't have been able to accomplish or achieve or even recognize, something, right, which now I can help others do those things.
Yes,
So,
sir.
that was kind of one of the things right away. So you had me at the hook right at the first chapter.
Wow.
Wow.
And at the end of this chapter, Joseph is now, he's in the prison and he's recognized he's found favor. He found favor in Potiphar's house. He found favor in the prison by the prison guard. You're going to have to go and read this yourself now. Don't just take my word for it. I want you to go and read it. But he even found favor in the prison from the prison guard. And so he actually prophesied to a bartender and a baker in the prison, and because of what he did for them, one day up in the palace, the king is having a hard time. He's having a hard time because he's having these dreams, but nobody can interpret the dream. And so they say, hey, what about Joseph? So there are times that you may be thinking that you're in the pit and nobody can remember you, that everybody's forgotten about you. And God is I just want to tell somebody that God is going to bring your situation, he's going to bring your issue, your challenge, your name to the forefront of the person's mind that has the ability to change your situation.
Good. Now I got a question for you though.
Yes, sir.
Based on that, if God had showed you people who downright hated you, downright didn't treat you right, downright were talking behind your back, and it's valid, can you still love them after?
Absolutely. I do it right now.
Why and how?
Why?
Explain that. Like, you got people that are just downright mean, dirty, nasty, and I think most people's like, okay, well, just don't deal with that person. Like, cut them out of your life, type of thing, right? But you're saying love them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Explain that.
Not only do you love them, you have to forgive them. Why do I want people to love me? Because there was a time that I didn't even love myself. I wasn't making the best decisions. It was a time that I wasn't showing God that I loved him, but I expected him to love me. It was times that I didn't forgive myself for the choices and the decisions that I made in life. It was times that I needed God to forgive me. But you mean to tell me I'm going to miss out on blessings because of what somebody said about me, because of how somebody treated me? No, I'm not going to miss out on the blessings that God has for me because I'm holding on to unforgiveness in my heart, because that shows a heart. That's a heart thing.
I think it's key right there. You just said the word forgiveness.
Yes, sir.
And that's something that, I don't think people understand or resonate enough with, is you have to be able to forgive, because if you don't forgive, it's always there.
Now, just because I forgive you doesn't mean I have to reconnect with you.
Yeah. But
Forgiveness does not require reconnection. And see, a lot of time we think, well, just because I forgive you, no, because I'm not going to allow you to. Once I recognize you a snake, I'm still going to love you, but that doesn't mean I have to allow myself to keep being in your presence for you to continue biting
Are you going to love me though? Come on. If I'm a snake,
yes, sir.
I've done some bad things. I committed some bad crimes and everything else. Like, you still gonna,
Yes, sir.
that's got to be hard. Let's be honest. I mean, there are people out there. There's some bad people out there. Let's take, it just happened recently. The Georgia college girl, the girl on campus, unfortunate, bless her heart and her family,
Yes.
out there for a jog and she gets murdered. I mean, horrible, absolutely horrible.
Yes.
How can you love that guy? How can you turn your heart and say, you know what, I love him?
It takes prayer, darling. That's why it's important. When you made a comment earlier about it's not necessarily important for somebody to actually read the Bible, as long as they feel like they have a relationship with God. But how can you really truly have a relationship with God if you don't know His Word? The Bible said to put on the whole armor of God. What is the armor? The armor is the Word. And so if I didn't have the Word to teach me and to guide me and to tell me, hey, I got to forgive them. I got to forgive those that trespass against me. I got to forgive those. I got to trust that God is going to go before me and fight my enemies for me. I got to love those that spitefully use me. So if you don't know the Word, how can you counteract the war, the spiritual warfare in life, if you have no armor? The armor is the Word.
That's deep. You are a female, obviously, and reading the Bible and understanding. In the Bible, there's a lot of, talks about men in the Bible, you don't hear a lot about women.
There's a few of us in there.
How do you feel about that? Like, does that affect you at all? Or you ever question that or wonder?
Absolutely.
What's your take on that?
I'm a Southern Baptist girl, so of course, and it didn't even it never dawned on me until really God started calling me into ministry and calling me to evangelize and to minister to people, that I realized that I went my whole term growing up through church, and I don't even remember one female ever coming and ministering to us at the church. We might have little things to the side, and they might have little functions, but I never remember a woman coming and ministering at the church that I grew up at. But I'm not going to debate whether women can preach. I'm not going to sit up here and debate that, because one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to try to convince people that haven't been convicted. So my part, when we try to convince people that haven't been convicted, we're wasting our time, we're wasting our energy, and it's not for me to do that. It's not for me to teach and try to explain to somebody, why am I a woman and I'm ministering. The women in the Bible, the woman at the well was one of the best evangelists that there was. She said, "Come see a man that told me all about myself." She was the first one that held the first gathering. Yes, Jesus ministered. Yes, He called men as disciples, but at the end of the day, it was the women. Watch this. We talk about the men being the disciples and Jesus calling on the men, but when Jesus passed away, when He died, when they put Him in the tomb, it was the women at the tomb. It wasn't no men there.
That's
it wasn't
right.
no men. It was the women that was there.
But do you think that was their place? Like, that was what women were supposed to do? Do you feel like there was guidelines or rules, back then, and now today, more women are coming out, more women are more powerful, more women are doing things that weren't considered normal, many years ago and stuff.
Okay, so many years ago.
I mean, heck, in fact, some women are changing and becoming men, and men becoming women.
Okay. But however, many years ago, you didn't see whether many women was taking care of the household financially. If we're going to look at it, let's look at it all sides.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I can't sit here and say, I would never say who God is called to minister, who God is called to use. I would never sit there and say that. I would never say, oh, God didn't call him because he used to sleep around on his wife. I wouldn't say God didn't call her because she's a woman. Who am I to debate that? At the end of the day, the message is being saved. That's the problem. That's my perspective.
Let's talk about that for a second, because you just made a comment, and I'm just curious your thought about that. And obviously, this is your opinion, my opinion, whatever. But something bad happens in the world, and I'm sure a lot of people think the same thing. Whether it be a child that has cancer and loses their life, or guy cheats on his on his wife, or a woman strangles or murders her child or something. Like all these crazy things have happened in life. Yes. Why would God allow things like that to happen? Bad, horrific things to innocent people at times.
Why would God allow bad things to happen? That's the question.
Yeah.
See, well, a lot of times we think that things are falling into place and we think that things are God's plan. And we always also understand, let me just say this, the enemy, Satan, doesn't do anything that God hasn't allowed him to do. Satan went to Job. He had to ask for permission to attack Job.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that happens to us, either God caused it himself or he allowed it.
If I'm not mistaken, with Job, he said, "Go ahead and have at it."
But you can't have his life.
You know, right? Yeah.
But you can't have his
do
life.
whatever you need to do,
But you can't have his life.
Right. And
But he had to go get permission. So at the end of the day, whether my life or what I'm going through, if God took me home today, it's going to be devastating to my family. But at the end of the day, God is going to use my life to benefit somebody else's. Whether it was a traumatic end, whether I'm murdered, whether the case may be, that my life should be an example for the next person. So we don't know why God does what he does.
you know, I think that's very valuable what you say, because that's kind of my take on it all.
Yeah.
My kids have asked me, my son, Dad, because I'm very spiritual, and of course I believe in God, and the error is here. I know there's science to a lot of the world, but there's some things that just scientifically just don't make sense, right? So I do believe in the power of prayer and I've seen it, I've witnessed it, so I understand that. But to a younger child or a kid growing up, they ask some really good questions, and have that take on it, like why does this happen? And that's kind of how I explain it. I say, you know what, that child, maybe 3 years old, what happened was horrible, but that may have been the purpose of that child's life.
That's right.
On this earth. So we don't know that.
That's right.
I always say we're just visitors here, right?
We're just
so we're the Martians. We're the visitors. We're the people just passing through, right?
Passing through.
And we don't know. Everything has an expiration date, and we just don't know when that is.
Right. Yes, sir.
And everybody's expiration date is going to be different, regardless of what they are, or who they are, or what it is. It could be food or anything. It's got an expiration date. So that's really kind of how I summed up. So it was really refreshing to hear you say that. I'm just saying that.
Did I get an A on it?
So you got an A plus on me, man. You're way above my grade in the church.
Thank you.
But you know what? Yeah, I know it's a question that comes up, because it comes up a lot.
Yes, sir.
I've done a lot of teaching. I was an altar boy growing up. I was, my family forced me to go to church. We grew up Italian Catholic, like most, right? I'm sure if you ask them, they'll say, like, we didn't force it. Yeah, they forced me. Every Sunday. Me and my sister were talking. My father would give us a whack here in the head and stuff. Because we get to switch afterwards. We get the belt after church, because we didn't behave properly and stuff. Exactly. But you know what? But I had an understanding.
Yes.
There was a purpose and there was a reason, and tried to gather and get some information out of that.
Because it was, even though you might not have understood what was being said when you was going to church and you was hearing the word, but there was seeds that were being planted. And so now those seeds that you were getting, guess what you were doing? You're doing the same thing with your own children. So.
Right, you're right. Leads me to my next thing. You chapter 4. I'm just going to go right here. You said Jesus is not some genie in a bottle to give us everything we want. You made that phrase. You made that phrase. He's not a genie in a bottle. He's not you just can't cry to him when you want something and expect it. What was your real, you were pretty bold on this, putting it out there. What was your real meaning for that? Why did you come out like that? Because to me, God is a genie in a bottle. He can do whatever. You know what I'm saying? So
to me, when I made that statement, the point is, if you want to look at it that way, but sometimes when you're genie in a bottle, you're just only going to go and rub on it when it's something you want.
There you go. Okay, that makes sense.
When when I want something, I'm gonna go rub on this genie.
Right.
Because I want this miraculous thing to happen. But I really want. There are people that
they don't want to clean the bottle. They don't want to clean the bottle daily. They just want to rub it when they want something to come out of it.
There are people that know God. No, let me back up. There are people that know of God, and then there are people that know God.
Yeah.
When you know of somebody, like I know of you, I've seen you on social media, but I don't know you. I haven't spent any time with you. We haven't had any conversations prior to now.
Right.
But when you really get to know somebody, it's spending time with you. So that's why I said God is not just a genie in a bottle where you just call him when you want something. Imagine if the only time you talk to your daughter, you talk to your friends, is every time they call you, they're asking you for something.
I know that feeling. Wow.
It don't make you feel good.
No.
It make you feel like, is that all I am to you as a bank?
I've actually
So
been
imagine how
I've been
God
that
feels.
person. I felt that way. I
So
can.
imagine if the only time God hears your voice is when you're saying, God, if you get me out. How many times have we said, God, if you get me out of this, I won't do it no more. I won't go back
Yep.
no more. And the next
Shoot,
thing
I
you
did that
know-
with alcohol. Just stop me from spinning. Dear God, I will never drink again. I promise.
Lord, if you don't, God, if you let me get out of this Krispy Kreme this time, I promise I won't go back. And next thing I know, I'm right back in Krispy Kreme.
Right.
But that's the whole concept of that statement.
Yeah, well stated, well said. Now you talked about Jeremiah 29:11. So very ironic and used to stepping up. One of my best friend passed away, and that was actually, he was 46 at the time, had a heart attack, had 6 children, left a family, a 6, everything. It was quite sudden. Shouldn't have happened the way it happened, but it happened. His favorite quote, and what when we had a celebration, was Jeremiah 29:11. Ironically, here I am with you today, and here I am reading your book, and you really went into that. I mean, you could have picked any out of the Bible, but you chose that one. So I want you to touch a little bit about that and why and what it means to you.
Can I say this one little thing? I don't believe Wynika wrote this book. Holy Spirit led me to read this book because the book wasn't for me.
Right.
It was for the people that God was going to have to read it because he knew what the reader was going to need. It wasn't about what I need.
Right.
It was about to help that person understand. If you don't know the scripture, Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know, this is God talking, for I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to do you harm. My plans are to give you hope and a future. There's some scriptures that says, there's some Bibles that says to give you an expected end. So if you sit here and say, well, let's talk about my daughter, for an example. My daughter, no, I'm going to take that back. We was talking about your best friend.
That's fine.
Your best friend. Unfortunately, God called him home. But his wife, I'm sure she's saying, God, what am I supposed to do? What am I to do? God said, you just understand and trust that trust my plans. See, when we get frustrated because we get out of control, when the things in life that we can't control, it feels like chaos to us. It feels like, how am I going to make it? How am I going to make if my business is going in shambles? How am I going to make it if my friends then walked out and won't answer the phone? How am I going to make it if my family turned their back on me? How do I make it through grief?
Right.
And so, but God says, I know it feels like there's no hope. I know it feels like your heart is torn into pieces. But if you just trust me and trust and know that I have great plans for you, plans to prosper you. And if you just hold on to that, no matter where you are in life, if you hold on to that, I promise you, because one thing about it, God is not a God that can lie. His word will never come back to you void. If God said, Wynika, girl, you're going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire. I might not get all my money at one time.
Right.
But if God said he's going to make me a millionaire, he's going to give me $1 million, I trust that he's going to do what he said he was going to do. If God said, Wynika, you're going to buy you a house, you're going to have this and that, I got to trust it, even if the money is not even in the account. Even if I don't see it. See, that's the thing. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not yet seen. Do we have the faith that God is going to restore us, that's going to heal our heart? God said, I'll be any and everything you need me to be. If you just trust me, if you just let me in. I know you lost your brother, but do you trust that I'm going to be here to comfort you? I know you lost your husband, but do you trust that I'm going to provide for you even when it feels like all provisions are gone?
Mm-hmm. No, that's strong. That's deep. You're going to have some viewers that want to know, how did God tell you you're going to be a millionaire, and how does that work?
Right.
Do you have a phone number we can call and get some confirmation on that? I mean, where does that come from? But that comes from, I think the word faith is what I gathered from that, is having a faith and actually feeling that and seeing that and believing it, right?
Yes.
And that's what it takes.
I want to say this. In 2018, I found myself without a job. I went about 4 or 5 months without a job. And the oddest thing I had, my money was looking funny. I was
looking funny or just not there?
It was looking funny.
Just not there. You mean it just disappear? A little magic?
It wasn't all the way gone. But it was some times when I was worried and concerned about how I was going to, keep making sure that the home was taken care of. And next thing I know, I had it was just a weird thing that happened. It just, you're going to own a business. And here it was. I don't do hair, so I can't go open up no business doing hair. I don't do nails.
Yeah.
And I really wasn't in ministry the way I am now. I made a pray for some folks at times, but to really know and just really studying the Bible and studying the Word, I didn't have what I have now. But God told me I was going to own a business. And years later, I'm a business owner now.
Yeah.
And so God showed it to me back then. He showed it to me at a time that it was unbelievable. If you sit long enough, quiet enough, God will lead you. He'll tell you the things that you need. We just got to be open to receive what he's saying. See, a lot of times we don't want to.
Don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. Yeah.
We don't want to hear step away from the table. We don't want to hear leave the donuts alone. We don't want to hear leave the alcohol alone.
Right.
Do we not know that most of us are 6 months away? The life that we want to live we are technically 6 months away from it. The difference is, are we going to do the work to get to what we want?
Yeah.
Prime example, losing weight. I see you've been working out and doing your exercise.
Well, thank you for noticing.
I almost came and brought my tennis shoes, but then I saw that pool table back there. I said, "Oh my goodness, I should have brought my pool stick." But we are 6 months away from living a totally different life. The only difference is the work that we put in it.
100%. Hey, folks, this is Wham Bam at WamBams Podcast. I just wanted to let you know that we've launched our website and merchandise is now available to you. That's right. We have hats. We have T-shirts. We have hoodies. The hoodies have been going off the shelf already. The Stay Positive hoodies. That's right. Stay positive, folks, and keep tested negative. As you know, go to our website at www.wambamspodcast.com. That's www.wambamspodcast.com. Now back to our show.
The Bible says that faith without work is what? It's dead. I can believe God all I want to, that God going to bless me with a business. But if I don't do the work, he's not a genie in the bottle.
Right.
I can believe all day long that God's going to make me a millionaire. But if I don't do the work, if I don't be consistent, if I don't do what it takes to make my dreams come true, again, God is not a genie in a bottle.
Don't you find, though, the people that, they get caught up in this a little bit and they use excuses to not be able to strive, not be able to get there, and they want to blame bad luck, or they want to blame the boo-hoo, this happened to me. Like, for example, like I lost my job. You lose your job and you sit home and you're like, well, shoot, now what I do? The boss, that shouldn't happen. And the first thing they want to do is talk bad or negative about the job. Right. No, they worked there for 20 years, never had any bad thing to say about it. Now all of a sudden they're fired. Now all of a sudden the boss is no good and the job's a bad job, right?
Right.
They're always trying to find the negative instead of actually focusing on a positive, saying, boom, because of this, now it forces me to do what I'm supposed to do. And I've been there.
If we just take a reflection in the mirror, sometimes it's easier to blame everybody else for our problems. When the whole time, a lot of us, our biggest enemy isn't the people that talked about us, it's not the people that did us wrong, it's not the employer, it's not the people at church that won't talk to you, it's not the family that turned their back on you, it's not the friends that won't answer the phone. A lot of us don't even realize our biggest enemy is the enemy within, your inner me. Because what you say to you about you is the conversation we have with ourselves is the most important conversation you'll have with anybody. I can talk to you all day.
Yep.
I can talk to you about being motivated. I can talk to you about being excited, about getting up and being committed. But what do I say to Wynika? What you say to you when you wake up and look in the mirror, when you talk, what do you say to you? That's what I want to ask the reader. What are you saying to yourself?
I had this actually same conversation with a young man yesterday.
Wow.
Basically, I said, you worrying about everybody else, and you put everybody else first. What about you?
What about you?
Like, why don't you put you first?
My Lord.
You'll lend your hand, you'll lend your shirt off your back, you'll do X, Y, and Z.
But when it
comes to you,
wow.
You all of a sudden don't think you're worthy, or you all of a sudden don't apply the same stuff to your own life.
Wow.
And hopefully I got through to him.
Yeah, you got to me too.
A little bit. Yeah, I'm talking to you too.
I felt that.
Felt that? Well, that's good. That's good.
Because a lot of times it's so easy to motivate other people, but it's hard to have self-motivation.
Yeah. You talk about failing. You failed a couple times throughout. Now, if I'm not mistaken, even in the church, in the ministry,
Yes.
didn't you work for the church at one time?
Yes, I did.
And then they let you go?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell the viewers a little bit about your experience with that, because I am aware of that, and I know that you prospered because of that.
Yes.
That setback didn't stop you from
Exactly.
becoming and achieving where you are today.
The setback that I had, and then maybe we might be talking about chapter 4 from being a mess to a messenger. I'm not sure if that's the chapter that you was referencing to.
That's actually chapter 3. See,
Is
I
it
have my note, but it's okay. But having a breakdown reassures your breakthrough.
From
That's
breakdown
chapter
to
6.
breakthrough.
Chapter 6. There you go.
Yes, I did have an awesome opportunity to work at a church. I was a CFO of our church, and I got a chance to really grow and learn a lot. Even though it was a small ministry, I got a chance to learn a lot. I watched the pastor as he did a lot of things and how he communicated with other people. Unfortunately, there were things that happened in the church that led me to actually walk away from the position I had, which was the CFO. But what it did was, when it happened, it devastated me. And it made me have somewhat of a breakdown. I have to admit that, because it's not like you have an issue at work.
No.
Sometimes you can have an issue at work, and you may still go to work. You might not go to work.
But
what do you have an issue when you have an issue at church?
But I think that follows with anybody that's actually been let go, or got fired,
It's
or
painful.
the first thing you say is, "What did I do wrong?"
What did I do wrong?
And sometimes people forget to even ask that question.
sir. Yes,
they
sir.
just go out the door, and then you leave with this pain, and you don't even understand why.
One of the craziest things that God had me do, and I know it was God. The Holy Spirit led me. He still told me to sow after I'd been fired. You still sow into the ministry. You still go to church. You still do what you're supposed to do. And I still stayed, and I still stayed in position, but not in position as far as the position of the church that I had. Because I worked, the church.
But why did they let you go?
Oh, wow, my attitude.
Okay. No, this is good.
Can we be honest?
Yeah, 100%.
It was my attitude.
Yeah, so
my attitude caused me. Now,
what'd you learn from that?
It humbled me.
Okay. So this is God's work. This is exactly what we're talking about.
When God humbles you, it doesn't feel good.
Right.
You better humble yourself before God has to humble you. Because when God has to humble you, it is painful. And it calls you, and I thought I was doing all the right things. I'm sowing my tithes. I'm doing everything they asked me to do. But there were times when my attitude wasn't the best. Even though the pastor did come back to me and say, you know what, I think I overreacted and I shouldn't have let you go.
Sure.
But I don't believe he would.
But wait a second. Did he do that because you changed your attitude? Did he see a change? Maybe he saw a change. I mean,
I'm not sure.
You clearly recognized, okay, it was my attitude. You admit you had a bad attitude.
Yes.
Agreed? And you learned from it.
When I say I had a bad attitude, I didn't have very much tolerance for stuff that didn't make sense.
Okay, but still, it does. But I'm trying to look at it from a business aspect.
Yes, sir.
If I'm a boss and you're working for me and I let you go because of your attitude, but now all of a sudden I see that you're still coming around. You're still not judging nobody. You're not saying anything negative.
Yep.
And you're actually a different person who I thought had a bad attitude. It might be like, maybe I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see that happening.
But it had to happen. See, a lot of times we go through hard times in our life and we don't even realize that the very thing that broke us down, the very thing that caused so much pain, the very thing that hurt us so deep, it had to happen. It was that pain that pushed me to my purpose. I wasn't speaking anywhere. I wasn't really doing anything, but God used that pain as fuel to lead me and to guide me into the right position. It's been several times. There wasn't one time that I was asked to come back and fulfill that position I had, but it wasn't my assignment anymore.
But you know what? You use the word, the pain led you to the purpose.
Yes,
and I think it's so important, and viewers need to hear this and understand this.
Yes, sir.
When you're going through something bad, that's a good thing.
Yes, sir.
Because what's about to happen next is that purpose you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
And and I think everybody that can look back on some of their pain in their life,
Wow.
when they look back and say, during that point in time, I didn't get it.
Didn't get it.
But now I understand what the purpose was for that. And whether it's a job, and it's happened to me. I had a falling out old company partner, thought I was, we made promises. Long story short, we went separate ways.
Yeah.
It was devastating.
Yeah.
But if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Where you are now.
You know what I mean? It
I
forced me to do the things that I always wanted to do anyways.
If I had stayed there, if I stayed in that position, if he had that thing that had never happened, I would not have owned my own business. I worked for the church. Let me explain. The church it was a church, and then we had a nonprofit who had what they call an after school program and a summer camp. And then they had a daycare. So I was basically the director of the daycare, and I also ran the summer camp. I did all of that. And so if all of that hadn't happened, I would still be working at the daycare. And that's not taking anything from it, but I would have been in a sunken place. That was not the place that God had for me. And I did not realize that God had something bigger and better for me. And not only was it that, he had something that was my own that was waiting ahead of me. But we don't feel that in the process, in the time of pain, when we're being let go or rejected.
It's humility. We don't like humility. Let's just be honest.
It's painful.
Yeah.
But it's necessary.
It is necessary, but you don't realize it at the time it's happening.
No, sir.
And when you're going through it. But there definitely is a purpose. And, and I think everybody has experienced something, that they can look back and say, you know what? I didn't like that feeling back then, but I learned from it. And because I learned from it, I understand what that feels like. And just so you know, I think your attitude's great. So I think you got a great attitude. I would still keep you around.
I think, like I said, I have a great. I pride myself on. I try to have a good attitude, but I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
But I have a low tolerance for things that don't make sense. Prime example, being a CFO, you're based off money. Your job is to make sure we got the money to pay. The money is there. You're accountable for the money. But when I called myself at that time because I had to grow. God had to work in me. I called myself a realist. So if we got, I'm just throwing some numbers out there. If we got $2,000 in the bank as a church, why are we hosting an event that costs $10,000? Because I was a realist. It didn't make sense. But see, the problem was I didn't understand faith the way I understand faith now. My pastor was a pastor of faith. He believed that God was going to provide it even if we didn't have the money in the bank. So we just kind of like bumped head when it comes to that because I wanted to make sure we made sense.
Is there a fine line between faith and delusional? Like, come on, let's be honest. You either have it or you don't, and it's like, okay, I'm going to try, but you still got to have a plan of how you're going to get it.
But God provides. God, that's what I'm telling you. It's impossible.
Wait a second. See, I'm going to disagree. We're going to agree to disagree there because I think, you made a comment. God provides, but what if God doesn't want that for you? What if he knew?
His will.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So he's not providing because it wasn't supposed to happen.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just using this as an example. He's saying it's $10,000 to do it. He's like, faith. I know. I'm just going to use the same example. He said, hey, God's going to provide the extra $8,000 that we're going to need.
Yeah, and I'm like,
God doesn't want you to do this event. Yeah. How do you know?
Because the money ain't there.
Right, the money ain't there. So are you just going to keep praying on it in hopes that it happens, or do you wait for something to happen? Somebody donates $10,000 at church, ironically, and you're like, this is a sign that we're supposed to do that event.
I'm still going to disagree with you. Let me tell you why. Because God allowed me to go through humility, to go through what I went through with my pastor. And then he put me in the same, let me tell you how God would make things go full circle. He ended up putting me in some of the same positions that my pastor was in. Let me tell you why. In our end of October of 2020, God gave me the vision to host a women's conference. I'm sorry, end of 2020, he told me to host a women's conference. In the midst of COVID, I'm not a church. So guess what I had to do? I had to do it based off what people I hosted this event with not the income to do it, but I trusted God. God provided. He provided. And we just hosted my last conference this past January, and God has elevated every conference. And every conference I've hosted, I didn't have what was set out to be. I'm already planning my conference for January of 2025. I ain't got the money to go do it, but I trust God going to provide because I trust that this is an assignment from God. and not an assignment from Wynika.
Yeah,
It's a difference from faith.
But I think you also have a plan.
Yeah.
You have a plan and a purpose. You're planning something
and maybe
now.
he had a plan. He just didn't tell me.
Right,
the plan.
that's what I'm saying. Like
He didn't
Jeremiah
tell me.
29:11,
Yeah.
right?
No, I'm talking about the pastor. Maybe the pastor had a plan, and I just didn't know it, and we just believed.
But I'm just saying, like, even that, talking about, having the conference in 2025, you're
Yes.
planning that now.
Yes.
So you have time. You have time to have the faith in God that
Yes.
through time and with God and with
Yes.
prayer and everything that you're doing,
Yes.
it's going to happen.
Yes, sir.
Because you know in your heart and you feel it and you're passionate about it.
Yes.
I think passion is something that a lot of people don't put in to what they do.
Wow.
And the one thing I can honestly say that, and I was happy to meet with you today,
Thank
is you could see the passion that you
Wow.
have,
Wow.
not just for yourself, but for others. And that's what's important. When you say this all the time, like this material, this book isn't meant for you, it's meant for humanity,
Yes, sir.
type of thing. And I say the same thing about the podcast. My podcast isn't for me. I'm good.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
But if I could share and get out some amazing people like yourself,
Wow.
there are people at home that are just ordinary people too, watching, saying, you know what, I'd like to write a book.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or you know what, I lean a lot on the Bible and stuff, but my faith isn't so much.
Right.
Maybe after hearing this, they turn
Inspired.
and inspires them, and they turn their way. So to me, that's why I think is important. But the word purpose is huge. Passion and purpose, I think, have to go together.
Well, you have a passion for. I don't believe that the life I'm living. Yes, I'm living a life to be obedient, to do what God says do, because I want to make it to heaven. I want to make it in. I want Him to say, "Well done." But we have to understand.
Are
I
you
can't-
afraid? Let me ask you something. Are you afraid of dying? Because I'm not gonna lie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not going. Yes.
Because I have this
I-
conversation. Like, I'm afraid. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I love
Absolutely.
being alive. I love being here.
Absolutely. Because people have to understand you can't work your way into heaven.
So, what are you afraid of when you die?
My biggest fear of passing away or dying is making sure my biggest goal in life every day is I want to live. I want to make sure that my children are taken care of. I still have a 15-year-old and I still have a 24-year-old. And I tell people my 15-year-old thinks she's 20. No, my 24-year-old acts 15 and my 15 thinks she's 24. But I just want to I just pray that my children, my family, my husband is taken good. My mom, I'm still caring for my mom. So I don't even worry about me. I just want to make sure the people around me are taken care of and that are good. I want to say this to you. God gave me a vision in 2022. I started doing, I wouldn't call it a podcast. I would go on Facebook Live and I had my show. It's called Wynika Spotlight of the Month.
All right.
And it was Wynika Spotlight of the Week.
Wait, do that again. Because you put a little.
Wynika Spotlight.
You got that little.
And I would have different. The vision and the purpose of my show was God. I believe that what you make happen for others, God will make happen for you. So my vision for this show was, God, I want to use my show to help other people, because it may be somebody on my page and may not know them, that God, that you can use me to enlarge their territory. And so I started that in 2022, and in 2023, last year, I started my show on our local TV station, which is called Wynika Spotlight. My first guest was the mayor of Oxford. Then we had local principals and just local business owners in the area. And I say all that to say this to you, is that keep doing what you're doing. God gave you this vision, this assignment for a reason, because when you allow yourself to be a vessel for God to use, look, here I was, 2022, doing my own little local show on Facebook. I'm not nobody's, I'm not huge. A lot of people don't know me, but I'm using my platform to help other people. Now God is elevating me to be on your platform. Yeah. And so I do believe, so I just pray that God continues to enlarge your territory, everything that your heart desires. I pray that everything you touch will prosper, not in the next season, but in this season.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. My fear is a little bit different than yours,
Yes,
of death, because what I don't want to happen is when I die, I go up there to heaven and God says,
I never knew you.
This is the Phil Benamino I wanted you to be.
Wow.
Wow. I had so much more that you didn't grasp onto, or you didn't accept, or you didn't see, you didn't feel.
Yes.
And you were over here. I had so much more for you, but you let other people hold you back, or you were afraid, or That's my biggest fear,
Wow.
you know, is not being the person I'm supposed to be,
Wow.
you know, because we all have dreams.
Yes, sir.
And I tell everybody, you know, dream big,
Dream is
you know, and dreams can come true.
Well, let me just tell you
You
this.
make them.
You said dream big.
Yeah.
God, let me tell you this, big prayers honors God, and God loves honoring big prayers. When you dream big, that means you're envisioning yourself, you're envisioning God to give you the life that you want. That means you trust that he can do it.
Amen. Amen.
But if you go to God with the small prayers and you never go to him with the big prayers, how do you expect to receive the big prayers if you don't dream big, like you said?
That's right. That's right. So true. So true. So, you know, tell the viewers a little bit about your other businesses, things that you're doing now currently besides your book, being a minister and out there, you know, and stuff.
Goodness.
Yeah.
My biggest vision, my biggest passion is to serve the community, and to enrich the lives in the community I serve. And so when I talked to you about 2018, when I went a few months and I didn't have a job, I started working for a little small insurance company. I hadn't even got my license. And people coming in the office, and I said, well, let me call my insurance agent, because why are these people insurance rates are less than mine? So I called my agent. And he said, I'm getting ready to retire. You need to come run this office. And keep in mind, I didn't have my insurance license. I didn't know anything about business. Technically, I didn't know anything. And I said, you know, it intimidated me because, for one, I felt like I didn't deserve it. I felt like, who am I to just walk in and own a business, you know? And so this particular agent.
I hope you're through that now.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
You know, because
There's so
at the end of the
much
day,
money.
there's so people like, you know, what, I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve it, or I'm not able to, or I'm not that famous person like so and so. You know, and I say this all the time. Why not? Why not you? Why can't it be? Like, it didn't happen overnight for them either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But the truth of the matter is, there's 24 hours in a day for both of us.
Yes, sir.
You know, and it's how you utilize that time and where your passion is,
Yes.
where what your purpose, what your plan, all that stuff's got to roll together with the faith. With the faith, of course. But yeah, why can't you? It may not be tomorrow, but in time you can.
And my passion is to help people. I love helping people. I love being a problem solver. I love being the solution. My biggest prayers that I ask, and one of my prayers I ask God on a daily basis, God bless me so I can bless somebody else. Send me somebody that I can be a blessing to, and somebody that can be a blessing to me.
Here I am. Here I am. Bring it. Thank you, God. Yes. Thank you.
And so that insurance agent, he had his manager, he had his what they call agency manager reach out to me, and they called me in and asked me to come in and run the office. And so the first day into the office, I walked in and it was nobody but me, and I just boo-hooed because I was like, God, you know, I just, all I could do was cry and just thank him, because here I was a few months ago, didn't have a job, and here I am, you know, having my own business. And so he's been faithful. The work has been hard, it's been challenging, but at the end of the day, it's been all worth it. I am a licensed insurance agent for the state of Alabama and Georgia.
Congrats.
I help people protect what matters most to them: their car insurance, their home insurance, their life insurance, their business insurance. We even have a team of professionals that help clients with their financials and retirement. So I'm really like a one-stop shop when it comes to financials and protecting the things that you love. So that's one of the things I do. I'm also a Mary Kay beauty consultant. Can you tell?
All right. Yeah, there you
I'm
go.
a Mary Kay beauty consultant.
You got the pink car?
No, not yet. I just no. I'm not.
Gotta have
that
a pink
big.
car now.
I know,
Come on.
I know. But I've been a blessing to do that. I started back doing that. I sold Mary Kay probably about 18 years ago, and I found my way back into it a few months ago. So I'm excited.
You're just a straight old hustler.
I'm not a hustler.
You're a hustler, and that's in a good way. That's in a good way.
I want you to know.
There you go. That's right.
No, I'm not a hustler. I'm a lot of things. When people say, you know, when people, my introduction would be, I am not just yes, I'm a woman, I'm a female. That's one of the things you're glad about having a female guest on the show. But I tell people, Phil, that I'm not just a wife, I'm not just a mother, I'm not just a daughter, I'm not just a sister, I'm not just a sister, okay?
I'm with you.
I'm not just, insurance is what I do for a living.
Right.
An author is something that God has just called me to be able to do now. Those are things that I do, but to the heart of me, I'm a servant first. And if anybody wants to know me, know who I am, that's what I want them to say. It's an honor to say, oh, that's Jalen mama, that's Tweet mama. That's a blessing to say, that's Drake little sister. You know, that's an honor and a privilege. But to say, when people say one thing about that girl, she loves God, that's the biggest honor that I can have, because I want people to see him through me. And that's important to me.
Yeah. Well, you certainly carry yourself for that.
Thank you.
You're certainly a pleasure. Tell the viewers real quick before we pack up and stuff, where can they buy the book?
Yes.
Where can they get it?
You can go to Amazon and search my name, Wynika Hendrix'Palmer, or From This to That, and purchase the book. You can reach out to me, Wynika Hendrix'Palmer, on Facebook if you want to purchase a book, and I'll mail the copy to you. We do have them in the local areas. In Oxford, Alabama, we have them in the store called Second and Chance. I'm going to say Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
Second and Chance, and there's another local bookstore in our local area. But for those readers that's not from the Oxford, Anderson area, Amazon, or you can reach out to me. I would be honored to help you get your copy of your book.
There you go. Well, there you have it, folks. There it is. This to that. Okay. You just heard it right from the author herself. Okay. Go out there and get your copy, because I promise you, the information that you're going to gather from this, it's gonna be heartwarming to you and into your life. Because believe it or not, if you haven't gone through any experiences yet that are related to this book, I promise you, you will. And you know what? As Wham Bam always says, remember, if your life was a movie, would it be worth watching? And if the answer is no, then stop being ordinary and start being extraordinary. And as always, baby, stay positive and keep testing negative. Till next Wednesday, I'm your boy Wham Bam, and I'm out. This podcast was brought to you by Cost Plus Processing, the leader in merchant processing. Call 1-855-391-9190 and find out why they are the future in merchant processing.